So, a lot of people who don't understand much about the name change process try to pitch the Turkish passport name change scheme. It could be a complete scam. I'm going to explain how this does not resolve your name change purpose. There are other ways, there are legal ways, there are safeguards in place that you should follow when you can accomplish this properly with the right kind of process, with the right kind of citizenship. Before we get to the right way of doing this, let's first discuss what I mean by a Turkish passport name change scam. Now, a bunch of people, right, they want to change their name legally for whatever purposes. They should never change your name for nefarious reasons. If there's some legal grounds, there's legitimate concerns for privacy and protection, you're not up to anything wrong, then yes, it warrants a name change. It could be okay. But just trying to get the Turkish CBI so that you can tweak your name or get a Turkish flavor or a Turkish version of your name and you think you're going to become a new individual, that's complete bullshit. Now, first of all, as of today, the Turkish citizenship isn't that straightforward. First, you purchase a property for 400K, or let's say you open up a bank account and somehow you're successful depositing 500K, $500,000 in a Turkish bank account. Let's assume your property purchase takes 6 or 7 months. You find the right deal, or let's say by the time you clear that whole banking hurdle, it takes a few months, and then you're applying for your Turkish nationality. Now there's a residency requirement in place. So first you have to travel, provide your biometrics, get your residency done. In theory, okay, everything happens in a couple of days, but in practice, you got to consider things and the time it takes in reality. So it is taking some considerable amount of time to strike the residency in Turkey, and then you apply for the nationality, and that nationality process is super cumbersome for a lot of people. It could take up to a year and a half. Sometimes if you make small mistakes, it could take longer. Once you've gone through that process, and then let's say you want to change it to a Turkish version or a Turkish name or a Turkish script, there's obviously tracking involved, right? Your previous name is traced back to your new name that you have obtained. So the CIU is very vigilant, very diligent. Gone are the times where there was less craziness. Now there's extreme strictness. The money that you're depositing in the bank, right? The source of income, all of those kind of things are heavily scrutinized, heavily tracked. A lot of candidates, and I personally have spoken to people who, not through us, but through some of the biggest companies, have purchased the property for 400K, and for whatever reason, their citizenship didn't go through, and then you're stuck with a property, you don't have a citizenship. So it is a very intensive, involved process. And let's say you go through this whole ordeal and you try to change your name to a Turkish script. There are a couple of things here. First, Turkey knows what your original name is. This is a CBI program. There's a clear watch, there's a concrete watch. The moment you're trying to do this for negative things or for wrong things, you are going to be busted. The Turkish authorities mess around with them. Of course, they're going to take action. But again, there's supply of information that would happen if it is requested and if it is proven that you have done this for a wrong thing. That's the first thing. The second thing, and most importantly, is a lot of countries have this intelligence in their database. Once they see a Turkish passport, you don't fit the classic profile of a Turkish. Obviously, the question then begs is, did you get a CBI? Did you purchase the citizenship? A lot of entities, intelligence agencies, a lot of immigration offices, a lot of border guards, they know Turkey allows a Turkish script. So if you purchase this passport, did you have a different name? That's a legal question that they can ask you. They'll ask you to put down that name if you have changed it before, and that's where they're going to catch it. If you lie on that form, and if there's a request to Turkey to release your original name, then you are in deep shit. So changing the name itself is not a scam. Trying to sell you this whole concept of creating a new identity by getting a Turkish passport is an absolute scam. Don't fall for it. Now, how do you legally change a name? When you're trying to become a citizen, for example, a classic case is the US nationality. Once you're trying to become a US citizen, there's a certain process, a legal process, where you have the ability to change your name legally. There's a certification involved over there. There's also a bunch of countries that easily let this happen. Now, the change process is a discrete private mechanism. It's legal, but it's private, and you have the option of changing it at the time of your application. Doesn't require property purchase. Of course, this is citizenship by exception, or let's call it donation, or a combination of donation and investment. The whole idea is that it's not a can or a publicly listed CBI programs. Those programs, any CBI citizenship is the first thing you should avoid for any kind of name change, because that's not going to be private. People are going to, simply by asking you a couple of questions, determine that you have changed your name. That's where, when you have an exception, it's a very private process. The process itself is 100% legal, but it is private and happens as a private bond between you and the country. The due diligence is in your favor. It's discreet, it is private. And then the name change is a absolute secret process, a legal process, and a private bond between you and your country. And as long as you're keeping things legal and changing your name for legal purposes, with an exception, this can be done. What are some of the countries that allow this? Now, a famous example is, let's say someone is naturalizing in the US. They have a specific process. There's a proper process where you can change your name at the time of applying for naturalization. It does require obviously extensive approvals at that point, but there are other nations which are more flexible, which are more easier to accomplish the same result. So you're trying to accomplish the same thing, but it's more easier or flexible or more in your favor. And a classic example would be certain West African nations. One of those nations is a CPLP and an ECOWAS nation. Now, typically you don't want to change your name, you don't want to create complications, but for whatever reason, if you have decided that you want to legally acquire a name change, then there is a legal process to do this properly. And none of this information that I'm sharing is legal or immigration advice. If you are interested in striking this nationality, if you want to learn more about the process, you can always reach us. Click the link, book a call. We can discuss if this is a good fit for you and your family, and we can get you started with this process. Now, the citizenship itself takes approximately 30 days. You should have your nationality in hand. Now, if you're adding any miscellaneous requests to the process, it still remains the same processing time. The processing time does not get affected. It does not get changed. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because the moment there's any update to this program or there's a launch of any new program, now there's a latest citizenship in West Africa that has just launched. It is a CPLP citizenship. If you want to learn more about the pricing, the structure, the advantages, disadvantages, comparisons with other citizenships, you can click this link. You can check this video out. This covers this entire program in a lot of detail. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and catch you in this one.